My parents divorced when I was, well, actually before I was born. So my mother moved us to Florida. She didn't work, so, we didn't always get what we needed or what we wanted. And we were lacking our father because he helped very little. He gave $45 a week. Probably the worst day would be seeing my mom cry because she couldn't give us the things that she wanted to give, and sometimes she couldn't even provide for the necessaries. I was 17 and I got pregnant. It was very upsetting to my family because, they were thinking that I would just quit school, and so I did. I had to eventually to take care of an infant. I felt like I was a child myself. The most difficult part was I missed out on all of the things that I felt like that could have been very important in my life, like the prom, walking in graduation, being able to go out to the movies with my friends, spend the night overs. All that ended, that all ended. So I missed out on a lot of those things. Later on, I met someone and we did marry and was together and had another child. Eventually, we end up having a broken home. So in my 20s, I realized that I did have some mental health issues. It was a problem that I overlooked. I didn't take it seriously. It came with depression. I tried to commit suicide. For whatever reasons. I felt like that I didn't want to live life, and there wasn't even a lot of reasons to feel that way, but I did. I tried to OD on pills. Of course, that didn't happen. They did the things to bring me back. And by then, I'm with 2 children, trying to commit suicide. My family's doing the best that they can do. I eventually committed a crime, got in trouble. And so in my late 20s, I committed a theft crime. It was all about having more money, and being able to provide some stuff for my family that never was provided for me, really, is what it stemmed down to. I went to jail. I not only went to jail, they sent me to prison. So, at that time, I had done nothing to help my kids. My youngest son ended up with his father. My oldest son ended up with my parents, my mom and my stepdad. So there again, I was away from them. They were away from me. They didn't understand. And so I done 18 months in prison. I don't know that prison taught me a lot. All it did was make me see that I wasn't alone and that there was other people with the same issues. The most difficult day in prison was the day that I got a call that my youngest son had been beat by his father. His father burnt him with a cigarette. He had bruises across his chest. Defects had came into the hospital, taken him. No one in my family could see him. I still had custody of him at that time, but I was incarcerated. So my family tried their best to get, to my son, but they couldn't. So that was probably the most difficult day in prison, to know that my child needed me and I wasn't there. Shortly after I was out, I was reunited with my son. His father was taken, which was the void in his life. His father couldn't lay eyes on him until he was 18 years old because of that. From then on out, we just lived almost a normal life, and I felt like I was living a normal life. But then one day, my mom had a stroke. And that was definitely one of the worst days of my life. About 5 months after my mom died, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Well, at that point, by then I didn't know what to do anymore. And that's when I resorted to taking Xanaxes. The more you take, the more you don't feel. So I didn't have to feel the emotions. I hid it. I didn't want my kids to know. I didn't want my family to know. But I almost literally couldn't function. So time went on and I got in trouble and went to jail for it. The charge itself could have put me in prison just because I was on probation. So I entered help court. And I went through a 90 days intense outpatient program, which was the start to changing my life. And then I went to the Goodwill Career Center. I got the piece of paper and I was reading it. Wow, if you have a charge, you can have a job. I was like, well, that doesn't make sense to me that I can be a felon and be out of jail within a year and I can get a job, because that's not the route that my past had taken me. I went for the open interview and I listened to Mark Mobley, the director of Georgia Calls, speak about what he could do for me. And I was thinking, that can't be true. What's the catch? And I listened and he said, $0. All I need is you to be dedicated. To dedicate your life 1 year to a program that will forever change your life. He went over about what would happen. First of all, it would give us a job. At that point, we would be working in a call center, taking calls, and then we would go through some training. We would go into a job life skills. We would also have a spiritual growth class. So I came to Georgia Calls, and that first day I walked in this building. Mark gave me a key. I was like, what am I going to do with this key? He said, well, one day we're going to carve this key so you can open the door of your own company. I was like, well, I like that key, so let me put it at the top. So I put my little key up there at the top, and I felt like that was important to me. It was probably about 6 months into Georgia Calls, I got a call that my son had been hit by a car. I'm screaming. Robin grabbed my hand. She was the administrator at that time. And she said, calm down, we got this. What happened? I said, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I just know he's being taken to the hospital. She grabbed my hand. She put me in the car. And she drove me to the hospital. My son had tried to commit suicide. And Robin said to me, it's going to be okay. In the past, I would have yelled at people that was involved in it. I would have probably yelled at my son, like, what are you doing? But instead, I go in there and I tell him, Sean, you have so much to live for. He said, Mom, I don't. What's there to live for? I said, the same reason that I lived for you. I was able to help him get into treatment. You know, I was able to direct him. Instead of just being a mom, felt like I was a coach getting him to where he needed to be, instead of just being mom and saying it's okay and just enabling it. So Georgia Calls had taught me to handle, again, another difficult situation differently. That was just one of the many, challenges that I had during my time at Georgia Calls. But they taught me so much about being independent, about having a budget, how important it is to be dependable, how important it is to think outside the box. Don't always think it's the way it is. Listen, just listen. And one of the strongest things they gave me was a better Christian foundation. Without that, I wouldn't be where I am today. What I like most about Georgia Calls is they care about you, your family, your future, and where you're going to go. If it wasn't for Georgia Calls, today, I would probably be in jail. Because I didn't have the skills, the knowledge, the dedication, the confidence to be where I am today. To graduate Georgia Calls after 1 year was emotional. It's like graduating from your family. They are my family. I felt confident about where I was going for once in my life. So I was very proud that I made it there, because a year before I didn't think that I could. So at that moment, I had achieved something real in my life that I was very proud of. 5 years from now, I will be an owner of a boutique. My goal when I first came to Georgia Calls was to become the CEO of my life, have the confidence and the knowledge to open my own store. My life will never be the same as it was before I walked into Georgia Calls. And I guarantee anybody that will just stay with that program for a year, you're going to be the same way. And then in 5 years, you're going to see yourself as a leader like I'm going to be. What I would say to someone that is going through a rough time right now would be, don't give up. Don't lose hope. Don't settle. Go after what you believe in. And that anything is possible if you just try.